I think it was a very courageous decision of France to approach Germany, of Mr. Schuman to approach Germany, forming a community which would later become the European Union. My country, the Netherlands, was one of the 6 founding members of that community. And it was courageous because you should remember it was just a few years after the Second World War that completely devastated the continent of Europe. And through this approach between 2 arch enemies, France and Germany, it became possible to rebuild. And I think the EU has been a tremendous success because in the territory of the European Union, after the Second World War, we haven't had any armed conflict anymore, and we were able to build a very strong economy to expand the Union and to work better together. And I think all European citizens have profited from that. And this is what we commemorate. There were many actually, so it would be very difficult to prioritize just 3, but let me say this, the Netherlands was one of the founding members of the European Union, so we developed it together with all the countries that joined then and that joined later. I think my country is a very small country. It is not much larger than Moldova. It has only 17 million people. Our economy depends on trade. So for us, I think the biggest advantage was that we managed to build a common market with no obstacles to the movement of persons, no obstacles to trade. That is the biggest success. But in order to have this market and to make sure that everybody plays by the same rules, you need to build a common understanding of what justice is, to make sure that if there is a conflict, that it will be solved fast and it will be solved in an equitable manner. So I would say that our common values when it comes to access to justice, for example, and independence of your judiciary are very important. And a third, a major thing that I would like to stress is the importance of a common human rights framework, where all the citizens of the EU enjoy the same rights, including the minorities, so that we can actually make sure that everybody feels safe and happy in that European Union, but also to make sure that the talents of everybody are fully used for development. I think it's very difficult to say right now because we are only 2 months into the health crisis here in Europe. It will probably determine our lives for the years to come, which is very sad because unfortunately we have to give up some of the freedom that we got used to and that we are so used to, including the freedom of movement, the freedom to go to a restaurant or a bar, the freedom to be with our loved ones. And we don't know for how long. We have to take all these measures. We are not sure which measures are working and which are not working, whether they are too strict, whether they are not strict enough. We do it for our own good. We do it to be safe. But it's very difficult because we do not have all the information about the virus. We don't know the virus very well. All countries are acting in the interest of the population. Situation may differ from country to country, but again, it's very important for us as European countries, also for Republic of Moldova, EU member states, to talk to each other and to coordinate those measures, make sure that under these circumstances, the people can still reach their potential, still go to work, still meet each other, of course, safeguarding their safety. And it's very important to also check what our politicians are doing in the EU, in the Republic of Moldova, and that's why it's more important than ever to have an independent press with access to information, covering what's going on, asking difficult questions, asking questions that sometimes we do not know the answers to, but it's important to have this debate and to also help the people understand what's going on, why we are taking these measures, these extraordinary measures, but also making sure that they are appropriate. Let me put it this way, Moldova is a European country. Moldova has chosen for itself a European future, and I think that is a very wise decision. That is one of the reasons why the European Union and the Republic of Moldova have signed the association agreement. That association agreement has a lot of benefits for Moldova. It can help it to grow its economy, but it also means that some of the rules, some of the legislation has to be in the same line as the European Union legislation when it comes to trade, so you have the same standards, but also when it comes to justice. And this is one of the things that we always say to the Republic of Moldova: make sure that you reform the justice system. There have been some scandals in the past. I think nobody will deny that. There have been some large corruption cases, some political meddling in the decisions of the courts, some oligarchs who have been manipulating politics. We all know those cases. Those cases are hampering the development of Moldova. If you reform the justice sector, if you make it truly independent, not only is this in the interest of fighting impunity, it's also in the interest of growing the economy and attracting foreign companies who will invest here, who will create jobs. The European Union is the largest investor in Moldova, obviously, but I am sure we can grow this investment and we can create many more jobs if the justice sector is properly reformed. Speaking for my country, human rights are at the center of our foreign policy. That means that we support human rights movements in every country. We always make sure that when we talk to other governments that human rights is part of the dialogue. And we are also willing to be criticized because that is what it is about, right? We all are in this together. We have all signed up to the same human rights treaties, where we agree that nobody can be discriminated, that all ethnic minorities, sexual minorities, religious minorities should be treated equal, that if you are suspected of committed a crime, that you should face a justice system that is honest and that gives you certain rights. We have all signed up to them, but in practice it's not always easy. It's not always easy for my country. I mean, in the Netherlands, we also have discussions about the way we treat certain minorities, about migrants, for example. I think it's important to have a dialogue, and we are having this dialogue with the Moldovan government, and we will always support the Moldovan government to improve the implementation of their legislation, the human rights legislation, to make sure that they adhere to the international human rights treaties. But we also work with civil society. There are a lot of good initiatives here in the Republic of Moldova who defend the rights of the Russian speakers, for example, who defend the rights of the Roma population, who defend the rights of the LGBT population. Well, I think civil society plays an important role in a democracy. Civil society really is a watchdog, much like the media are also a watchdog. They are there to check on what the government is doing, to check on what the parliament is doing, and to check on what the judiciary is doing. And I think their duty is to make citizens aware of what's going on and to also put some pressure on the government, the parliament, the judiciary, to really act in the interest of the population and to respect human rights in this case. And there are different ways of doing that. I mean, you can make reports, investigate what's going on, but you can also make sure that citizens are aware of their rights. You can help governments find solutions for example, to have a more transparent budget process at the regional level, which is an example of that. You can give people information they don't have, for example, about the importance of non-discrimination of sexual minorities, of ethnic minorities. You can help independent media to strengthen, so all Moldovans have access to high quality and independent information. Those are examples of things that we can do, and we are not only doing them in the Republic of Moldova, we are doing them in many countries. Right now, as we face the COVID crisis, there is a lot of misinformation on the internet especially, right? The internet is very beautiful because anybody can write something. You don't have to be a professional journalist. You can still have an audience. That is good, and we should conserve that. But at the same time, it means that sometimes some bad quality information, some fake news gets an audience that maybe should not be getting an audience. And if that is done with a malicious intent to manipulate the people, of course that is problematic. And I think there is, in my country, as there is in the Republic of Moldova, a duty for the regulators to intervene when there is fake news trying to manipulate the people. For example, about coronavirus and the ways to prevent it or the ways to cure it. There are some quite ludicrous theories about how to cure coronavirus. Now that is dangerous because it can endanger the public health. Now, of course, you can have a discussion about what is fake news, what are the criteria, because some politicians may be inclined to abuse this filter to stop news that they don't like. And there, again, it's important to make sure that you have an independent regulator with very clear criteria of what is fake news and what is not fake news, what is freedom of speech. And I think if they are transparent about those criteria, and this is something that we may work on together with the government to be more clear about the criteria for what is fake news, then everybody can check on the work of the regulators, like, yeah, it's indeed a good decision to block this website because this information is pertinently false, it's misleading, and it's hurting the general population. So, of course, there is a thin line between what is censorship and which is blocking fake news. It's sensitive. You will never do it 100% right. But therefore, it is very important as a regulator to be transparent about your motives, to be transparent about the criteria, and to explain them. I think my message to the Moldovan citizens in this difficult time of COVID, where people tend to lose their job, if they have a business, they probably have lost a lot of income, they may be wondering if their business will survive. I would send a message of encouragement. If we together stick to those precautions, safety precautions, then hopefully in a couple of months, the worst of the crisis will be over. We can make plans to rebuild the economy, and you can count on the European Union, you can count on the member states of the European Union to accompany you, to invest in this country, and to make sure that we build back a better Republic of Moldova after the COVID crisis is over.